Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. and today I'm reviewing Babylonia from Ludo Nova Games. Babylonia from Knizia is a 2-to-4 player abstract area control game. In this game, you're going to have the various players, like I said, 2-to-4, and you're going to be taking these tiles and placing them down onto the board in order to get a variety of things, but ultimately getting points. That's the core idea. You're placing tiles down to get points. How you get points, what you're doing, all comes down to the area control of the board. Now, these regions will be divided up depending on the player count. You'll be playing with different areas of the board, but right now, just for the sake of showing you how it plays, we have it fully set up with 2 players' tokens worth, and on your turn, you're going to be placing down tokens. Either 2 of anything or 3 farmers will be going down to the board. Farmers have their point and their benefit, lots of connecting stuff, lots of other things, but ultimately nobles are a little bit more useful for scoring points, which is why you have that 2 of anything or 3 farmers. But you're going to be placing tiles down around both these monuments, these ziggurats over here, as well as all the various tiles, the cities and the farms, trying to go onto the farms, all with the goal of getting, well, everything. You want to have placement around things, you want to have control around things, you want to have placement on the board. The game is going to have a lot of cutthroat positioning and navigation as you place tiles down for a variety of effects. First of all, you're going to want to place your tiles around these temples, these ziggurats over here. When you do so, when you place a tile down here, you're going to get a point for every single temple you already have a placement around. So that first one gives me 1 point, which I'll move up on the track over here. And the second one, if I put down this one over here, that's going to give me 2 points, 1 because I'm there and there, putting up 2 points, moving up on the track. You can see that as you do that, you're going to continuously getting more points. You get to a point in the game where once you have tiles around every single one of these, you can start getting to a point where every single tile you place down scores you more and more points. You're getting 5 points per placement. Boom, boom, boom. 5 points, just chunks of points for every single one you place down. The problem is, in the meantime, while you're trying to evenly spread your forces, the other player, and again from this screen, you can have 5 tiles visible at all times. You're picking 2 or 3 from those 5. The other player, meanwhile, while you do that, is there instead grabbing their 3 farmers, and they're going to go ahead and close off one of those temples. So they'll go over here, they'll go 1, 2, 3. This is one of those times where placing down a farmers can help because you can get that additional placement, locking in what you need for the game. In this case, they've now completely surrounded it. You do not need to be, actually this is a river space. Let's pretend we had another tile there. This is not a river space. It's actually one of the frustrations of the game is you can't always tell what's what. But this side over here, now this is completely surrounded. This player puts down those 3 and they'll be able to take one of these bonus tiles. They didn't get their nobles out, which is a little frustrating, but they'll take one of these bonus tiles, which will give them an ability they can have and play for the rest of the game, or alternatively just straight up 10 points or taking another turn, or a whole bunch of different options you can have as far as these bonus tiles you'll use. So that already you can see part of the reason you want to try to spread as much as possible, but also you want to try to go ahead and get your tiles out to be specifically close things off when and where relevant. Now you also could place tiles down in the river, but when you do so, you place those tiles face down. They don't count as a farmer or a noble, they just count for connectivity, although they also count for control, but they don't stop an area from being controlled. Meaning if you get them down early enough, sure, they'll help you, they'll contribute, but you don't have to close them off. They will you'll close off the temples or the cities or anything else based on with not counting the river spaces in the game. Past that, you also have the farmlands over here. When you gather farmlands over here, you're going to go ahead and put down, whenever you have a piece next to one of these, you can go ahead and place down a farmer onto it, you can take the tile, and you'll score points, either the number on the tile, which you can see 6, 5, 7, etc., alternatively, the number of cities in front of all players. This would be a terribly grabbed tile right now because nobody has any cities, so this would score 0 points, but that is effectively how you get them. As the game progresses, as cities are taken, you're going to see more and more opportunities for taking those farm tiles, because suddenly you'll go from scoring 0 points per farm tile to 2, to 5, to 7, to 17, depending on how late in the game that actually happens, because cities are a big part of the scoring experience. Whenever a city is fully surrounded, you're going to score points for connected nobles of a matching type. So again, looking at the board over here, let's just grab a bunch over here, create a little bit of a structure as far as how this goes. We're going to go ahead, let's specifically try to do this around this one over here so you can see exactly what it's like. We're going to put that there, and this here like so, and this here. And we're going to go ahead and grab some of these tiles, and we're going to go ahead and put this here, along with these, you know, over here and over here, and just trying to put a bit of a setup in place so you can get a sense of how this plays out. But over here, were this to score right now, were the city to become completely surrounded, again, you place down your last 2 tiles, it's your turn, you go ahead and you grab 2 of these, you place them down, going like that, you close off the city. Now 2 things are going to happen. First of all, whoever has control of the city is going to get the city, placing it in front of them. But before you do that, you're going to score points for chains of connected nobles. This is where connectivity on the entire board is so important. Right now, you're going to score 2 points for 1, 2, 3, and this one over here as well, because they all are connected. It doesn't matter that it's broken up by different types. The fact that they're connected still means that you're going to score points times 2 for every single one of the matching symbols. over here they're going to get for these and these, because these are the matching symbols on there, again, regardless of what you actually have next to it. And so placement and connectivity in this game is everything. Getting your pieces out in the right areas in order to be able to score giant connectivity areas as you score different cities, because everything's going to continue to score. 2 seconds from now, this player is going to go ahead, grab their hand of tiles, and they're going to place a tile down over, let's just grab some of these over here. They're going to place a tile down here and over here, and now they're scoring for all of these as well. And meanwhile, this player is going to score for these, but if they had a bunch of stars on this side over here, they would not score for these stars because these are not connected to this one. Whereas if they had a single more river over here, that connectivity will help them score for everything. Again, this is why connectivity is so important in the game, because the larger your connected group, the more you'll be scoring those symbols again and again and again and again. And that is basically what's going on in the game. You're placing tiles down, trying to gather cities. Oh, wait, one big deal. Whenever you place a city, whenever you score a city, all players get points for every city in front of them, which means the first person to get a city, that city is going to score like 17 points across the course of the game as every other city is claimed. Versus the 16th city might score you only 2 additional points. So you're trying to be mindful of your nobles. You're trying to be mindful of placing around the temples. You're trying to be mindful of the ability tiles you'll get from the temples. You're trying to be mindful of the connected nobles and the fact that you're scoring points for every completed city. Every single thing you do in this game, and of course the farmers as well, every single thing you do in this game is with the goal of trying to be mindful of what is the better point optimization engine, until of course the game ends, you add up all your points, see who won, and that is basically Babylonia. Which speaks into my review, starting off with ease of play. The rulebook is like 2 pages, well, double-sided, count in the front, so like 3, maybe 4 pages of rules. It is incredibly easy to dive into and understand. There's basically a turn sequence is place tile, either 2 or 3, and then depending on what you're placing around, there's a few different scoring optimization things, and then there's a list of what all these ability tiles over here do, and that is everything. That's the game. It's fairly clear as far as what's going on. This is one of those games that is very simple to understand. It's the actions you take is where the complexity rises up. As far as game length, generally under an hour. At a full 4-player count, you might run a drop over an hour, but I would say this game generally runs 45 to an hour 15, with it usually being 45 to an hour when you play this game. And if you're playing at a 2-player, even lower, although 2-player is not where I recommend the game. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, starting off with the cleanliness of the system, and the playtime, and the strategy, and the whole package of what this game gives you for that short playtime. Babylonia gives you a solid strategy game that plays in generally under an hour. It is incredibly easy to teach. It's incredibly easy to pick up. You could not play this game for 6 months, pick up the rules, and you'll be good to go in 3 minutes. It is not a hard game. The complexity comes from the interaction, not from the actual rules on the table. Just putting things down, scoring points, building out the board, trying to figure out what you do, and turns are fast. Even at a 4-player count, it's go, 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 go. The game moves so ridiculously quickly, and every single move is tempting in what you're trying to do. Every single move gives you something else you want. Do you want to try to score points for being next to every one of the temples? Or do you want to lock in those early abilities? Or do you want to focus on building out your network? While somebody else is trying to build here, 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 and here, you are building out a centralized hub in the middle of the board, and everyone else is not paying attention, so you're going to score your nobles again and again and again for every city that is closed off. Whether you want to play the game meanly, competitively, trying to get in the way of others versus trying to focus more on your own engine, focusing on who's currently winning and how to tank them. There's so much decision space around a few simple moves in this tile placement game. You're placing down your nobles, you're placing down your pieces, you're trying to score as optimally as possible with a few simple rules and a lot of cutthroat strategy mixed in. As far as what I don't like in the game, first of all, I want more ability tiles. I do want more ability tiles in the game. I want more variety to the way you can kind of do things there. And additionally, it is an abstract game very much in its implementation. This game ultimately, thematically, there's a little bit of a, an area control thing going on here. Ultimately, it's very much an abstract strategy as you place tiles down, trying to be mindful of the positioning, which does not take away from the fact that I like the game very much, but it doesn't have that same gravitas as playing a game like Blood Rage or Cyclades or all that. It's an abstract strategy game for 4 players as you place down your tiles as efficiently as possible and trying to be mindful of how it'll score. The last thing I'll say that I don't like, and this goes to the player count aspect, which is I drastically prefer the game at 3 and 4 players as opposed to 2, but the flip side of that is it means there is room for players kind of hurting other players just through incidental means. You might be taking your turn, and what you do kind of hurts me, but not them, and that could have an effect on the game. It's a minor complaint. It kind of goes hand in hand with an abstract strategy aspect, which is I do find abstract strategy games tend to work best at 2 players. This is one of those weird ones where I like it more at higher player counts, but I have that abstract strategy complaint at higher player counts. As far as what I can see others not liking, First of all, the map itself has minimum variety to it. Now that's not a big deal because the way the cities go out and the farms go out, those provide almost a inherent variability to the experience, which is why it doesn't bother me, even though I normally clamor for variability left, right, and center in my games. I would not say no to more maps, but it doesn't particularly bother me here. I almost wish there's just, I wouldn't say no to more maps. It doesn't bother me. But secondly, I'd say that there can be VP overload at times, both in terms of tracking as well as counting in the game. This is a game where everything can be worth chunks of points. You can be taking that 7-point tile on your first turn of the game. You can also be trying to get points, and as you place down onto these various ziggurats or whatnot, the temples, you can be getting 5 points per placement. And if you place down 3 farmers in a turn, that could be a 15-point turn. But also, there's cities that are going to be worth chunks of points now for your nobles and for across the course of the game. And every single thing, and every time you score a city, every time you place a tile, there's so much point tracking in the game that it can be very hard to see a good pattern. And additionally, it can be easy to lose track of actually counting those points. That might be a little frustrating depending on, well, what your preference is towards higher point scoring games. As far as final thoughts on Babylonia, I really enjoyed this one. I played a bunch of Reign of Knizia's other tile laying games. We'll talk about those in recommendations. Babylonia, to me, hits a nice, healthy, sweet spot as far as not being the best of his. It's definitely not the best tile laying game I've played from Reign of Knizia, but it is possibly one of the better combinations of accessibility, game time, and strategic depth. I have played a bunch of his, like Blue Lagoon, for example, that I thought were a little too simple. And then I've played games like Tigris and Euphrates that are excellent, but are like twice the game length. And so I find Babylonia really hits a very solid sweet spot as far as the strategic depth, the ease of play, and the game time, all in a nice, solid bundled package. To me, this is a 4 out of 5. It's still an abstract, it still has some nitpicks and complaints, but overall, if you like abstract strategy games, or if you like any of his tile laying games, I think Babylonia is one worth taking a look at. As far as the other game recommendations, I mentioned it already, but Tigris and Euphrates is going to be my first recommendation, one of my favorite games from Reign of Knizia, and it's one that really takes the tile laying that you see over here in this game, takes it to the next level with a whole lot more depth, but also more complexity and longer game time in the experience. And then secondly, Samurai. This also gives me small Samurai vibes in terms of the game experience. I personally prefer Babylonia, but Samurai has been well rated and around for quite some time, and overall a very loved game. In any case, and until next time, I hope you found this video helpful. As always, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and I hope you have a good one.